What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, being joined by Lauren Khalil. Lauren, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm in my new
That
shirt.
is tremendous. The Miko and Saber shirt. Uh, that is a
Gift from
popular
Presley
style of
Hirsch.
shirt now that people are making of the face collage of different people.
Yep.
If you need a late Christmas gift, I'm sure you could express one from Amazon after you put your kids, your pet, yourself, whoever,
Mhm.
right onto a shirt.
Yeah,
I made one for Heber Cannon for his 40th birthday.
yeah. And that voice
Amazing.
is Tommy Marquez. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good. I'm
Dad
tired,
wants
but
1 month. We're like a month in now, right?
by the time this airs, he'll be
Ooh,
a month exactly. So
wow.
yeah, one
You look
month
tired.
in. I am tired.
You look a different man.
Yeah, and I shaved my facial hair into a
Mhm.
mustache because I feel like every kid at some point has some like cherished vintage photo of them and their dad with some like weird mustache
Yeah,
from a time in the past. And
I
you're
do
like,
too. My dad
I'm like,
always
well, I'm like, well, I want my kid to have a mustache pic with his dad, you know?
yeah, I'm
But
not
you have no gray in it. No gray has developed over the last month.
just wait.
No. Oh. Yeah, just add 2 months and we'll see.
Okay, we'll keep a
Well,
check on it.
we got a busy show today. The main chunk of this is going to be spent speaking with Pat Vellner. Tommy and Lauren sat down with him Tuesday, got his thoughts on everything going on, CrossFit's uh, response to the investigation, what they had to say about that, and what the PFA is doing. And Pat's thoughts is a really good interview. So we'll have that coming up a little bit later, and we have some news items that we want to get to as well, just to get you updated on the things that are going on about the community. But first, we want to thank our sponsor for today, Creatures of Habit. Creatures of Habit, just the best high protein overnight oats that you can buy. You go to creaturesofhabit.com, use our code TEF, you're going to save 20% and you're going to build healthy habits. And look, they have 30 grams of protein in each serving, in each packet. So you just dump that in a container, 30 grams of protein. Plant-based, they have probiotics and prebiotics, omega-3 and healthy fats, dairy-free, gluten-free, non-GMO, and they're soy-free. And they take you about literally a minute to prepare for the next day. You stick it in the fridge. You got a meal for whether you wake up, you can take it to work for a snack. It's fantastic. They have all kinds of great
So good.
flavors. The maple one is just chef's kiss.
Mm.
That one is, especially this time of year,
Makes
dive
you feel all warm with holiday cheer.
into it. And then you can dress it up too. Like I just throw water in, stuff it in the fridge, take it out the next day.
Water?
Yeah, I just mix it with water. That's it.
Oh,
Nice,
you're a water guy.
Okay.
nice and basic.
Interesting.
I'm a Fairlife milk guy.
See?
Oh, yeah, it adds even a little bit of extra protein, makes it a little thicker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Creatures of Habit. They are fantastic. Starts with a K. Creaturesofhabit.com. TEF is the code. You will save 20%. And look, you got time. They make great stocking stuffers, do the packets.
Ooh,
Just
that's
saying.
a good idea.
Good
Just saying.
idea, yeah.
Stocking stuffers.
Yeah.
Travels
Looking for it,
well,
order a
put it
box,
under the tree.
taken care of. Another thing we want to tell you guys about, we have a partnership with First Form. First Form, that's 1ST form, PHORM.com/TEF. You go to that URL, use the /TEF. You can get some great stuff, and then we get credit for it. They're man, I don't even know where to start. I know Tommy's a big fan of the
The
meat
meat
sticks.
sticks.
The meat
The
sticks.
meat
Oh,
sticks. Their bars saved me at the
the
Masters CrossFit
masters.
game.
Oh,
They had the apple bars. Oh my God, those are good.
Sean ran to the booth and basically took every last one.
Hippies. They're so good. First Form, NST Form, PHORM.com/TEF. Check them out.
And
Bars make great stocking stuffers.
their protein, if you wanna really elevate your Creatures of Habit,
Ooh,
put a scoop
synergy. It
into
comes
the
together.
Creatures of Habit,
There you
and
go.
now you got 60 grams. You've already put a good dent in that protein
Mm,
macro. Oh, nice, Tommy.
good
I like
call.
that.
Good call. Okay, so creaturesofhabit.com. TEF is the code, 20%, and firstform.com/TEF. Okay, let's get into it. We had a couple big competitions that went on this past weekend. The first was in Dubai, where it was Karin Frey and Luka Djukic won. And I know everyone, that was great to see. That's a competition that Luka and Lazar were known for. They were there all the time. And then we had Fit Fest, and that was the one that, Lauren, you were there last year. That, I don't want to say uh, Wadapalooza certainly didn't steal anything because the Invitational was sort of the all-star event, but it was sort of the precursor to Wadapalooza SoCal, showing that
Mhm.
all-star format would work. And you had Team Europe went up against Team Rest of the World, and Team Rest of the World triumphed in that. But it was great to see Sarah Sigmund's daughter back out on the competition floor. She was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's good to be talking a little bit about competition again. And I didn't have a chance to watch a lot of the coverage, um, but look, it's just nice to have competition going again, because I think Dubai is sort of the beginning of the end of the off season, and then Wadapalooza really is sort of like the end slash kickoff of the next year.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like you said, reiterating what you said about Luca winning. I mean, won pretty dominantly actually by over 100
Mhm.
points. But that was actually the first event that I saw Lazar compete in person
Yeah.
was 2019 when he took fifth. But yeah, eh, I would love to. I know in due time he'll give it to us, but I would love just to talk to Luca about that experience. You can
Mhm.
see the emotion of like the post of him on the podium, and just
Yeah.
probably some catharsis of just getting back out and competing,
Yeah.
in a place that you feel safe for you, and a place that you genuinely cherished with your brother,
Mhm.
and even better to walk away with a win and beat out some pretty talented guys in Europe, is no joke. So, and Karin Frey's, this has been an event she's excelled
Mhm.
at for many years. So,
She
no
won last
surprises
year
there.
too, I think.
Yeah, and it was good to see that, like, Jamie Simmons getting back in the mix. This is another event that she's been excellent at. Her and Karin were actually in that pretty much four-way win and you're in to the CrossFit Games of 2018 with Sarah and Sam, when Sam walked away with it. But the Kristen Holto was in the podium mix for quite a bit too. So nice to see some of those names back towards the top of the leaderboard, and kind of mixing things up at high level comp.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Fit Fest, I think, too, always looks like a good time with the way they pull it off. And I think that, that all star format is, especially in the off season, it's just great for the athletes. They can go, it's low pressure. They put on
Yep.
a show, fans love it. Fans get a chance to see, a group that they really don't usually get to see, and everyone's happy. And now we can kind of move on to 2025, because I think that's it for any sort of major competitions. And then Wadapalooza gets us kicked off in January, and then the Open is right around the corner. So congratulations to everybody who competed over in Dubai, and congratulations to Luca and to Karin, especially for the victories. Okay, we mentioned this last week, and that is the documentary. And
Hmm.
it was, despite me sitting here saying how they needed to promote this and why didn't they promote it, it was the number one documentary on iTunes. So
Yeah.
you know what? Good choice by CrossFit. They didn't have to promote it. It's still number one. You two have gotten a chance to see it. I have not. And I do want to watch it, because this is the first one that has been done by an outside entity that wasn't very super familiar with CrossFit. They came in
Hmm.
with, not a lot of knowledge about the sport. I think they had some idea about maybe some of the stories they might want to tell based on some research they have done. But and Lauren, we'll start with you. How do you think it turned out?
It's hard. I should really have, like, my sister watch it, who
Mhm.
really knows not much about CrossFit, because I feel like the first 15 to 20 minutes really were like an educational piece on what is CrossFit, what is the CrossFit Games,
Mhm.
some of the history with athletes. And then it wasn't until, after that, that you really got into some character development and what's happening at the CrossFit Games with each, like, it took you through each workout. Like, we have seen in all of the docs, but it definitely was stylistically much different than I think what we're used to when it comes to a little bit of, like, bouncing all over the
Mhm.
place versus telling something in a very seamless storyline fashion.
Hmm.
uh I would like to go and watch it again to do a second pass through, because now I'm, like, expecting certain things, and I think I can watch it with a more critical eye. Overall, I think that I liked it. I mean, I like consuming CrossFit content, so it doesn't really surprise me that I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Uh, there were some question marks to me on, like, why they might have chose to interview certain athletes during certain points. And maybe that's just, again, me from more of a critical eye. The three of us and anybody in the media landscape, you have such a continuous pulse on where the storylines are, where when you ask an outside media entity to do it, maybe they're looking at it from a different perspective, or, okay, what athletes are going to give us really good interviews, and that will carry the doc more. So
Mhm.
overall, I enjoyed watching it. But yeah, I want to watch it again, and I'll probably force my sister to watch it to see what she thinks.
Yeah, I would. I think once you watch it, Sean, I would like to give it a second pass through. We can maybe kind of do a full review
Mhm.
of it. But my initial instinct is, one, the tone of it was very, very different. I want to say this. I'm not sure exactly what they may have changed, because I wouldn't be surprised if they went back and made some edits, because they glossed over some very curious things that I thought had relevance to the athletes that they chose, as well as the storylines that were relevant to the overall um, like leaderboard
Mhm.
and the story of the games. Like one of which being like the bike crash between Lazar and Justin Medeiros.
Justin.
That
Mhm.
I don't think they just like it felt like a footnote, and then they just kind of jumped to like Justin's accounting of the story. And there were a couple other like curious things where like, hey, this kind of like relevant thing to the story of the games happened, and it wasn't really included, or was just kind of touched on. And so I think the big picture, just after the first pass, this in the past, whether it was Heber and Marston, Ian, Mariah, then like them controlling it, it felt they always felt, love it or hate it stylistically, it always felt like they told the story of the CrossFit Games, and then that was paramount, and then they wedged in athlete interest pieces and side stories, like human interest stories, like after the fact. It's like, hey, we laid the bones of like what's the story that's relevant to the competition, and just telling the story of what are the CrossFit Games, and then we'll insert athlete stories and things like that in, and that will guide it. This felt like, hey, we're gonna go follow a handful of athletes and tell their story of their experience at the CrossFit Games, and then we're gonna go back and insert the overarching story and results of each event and stuff like that. So it felt very
Yeah.
different. Like the order, the hierarchy of where the baseline of the story came was felt very different to me. And I think part of that too, like a kind of addition to that point, is that the live competition parts, save maybe like Roman's injury and a couple other pieces, didn't quite have that like punch. And it felt like a lot of times the live competition playing out, or the highlight sizzle stuff, that really like high energy thing stuff we're used to seeing in the documentaries, was a lot more tempered, and live comp and like competition highlights were more a medium for other people to continue telling stories and
Mhm.
like background information and provide context. Myself, and you and Chase and other people as well. Whereas like you would get like these pieces where like Marcin and Heber, are some of the best there are at like these really high energy, like man, like snappy, really cool eye popping competition things, and then you'll insert some commentary and
Mhm.
context. These felt like commentary, context first, and then let's layer some competition on, and it just changed the vibe of it.
So you
I
say it's more character driven than event driven.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe
Mhm.
so.
And I think that's
And
probably more of a traditional take on. That's usually how more like my gold standard for sports documentaries or stuff like this is Hard Knocks on HBO. I
yeah,
like there that series is phenomenal. And they do like at the top, it's more about let's find the guys that we're gonna follow, and that's who we're following. You results be damned. We might have a guy who gets
Yeah.
cut. We might have another one. And we got the old wily veteran who's you're looking for another like one more trip. You don't hear a lot from the stars. It's mostly like guys kind of trying to make a roster spot. And so I really want to see how that approach uh plays out.
yeah, and I would even say Hard Knocks has evolved over the years, right?
Yeah.
Because like they you could they were kind of getting accused of losing their fastball, because like it was the same thing over and over again from training camps with just different teams. And then I think their in-season stuff with the NFC North or the AFC North has been
The in season stuff I
fantastic.
think is better. Like
Yeah,
that's
this
better.
is
Yeah.
because there's actual like ramp, like instead of just making a roster, like there's actual gameplay and
Well, there you go.
real.
Like, so in
Yeah,
that approach, is it more we're still following characters, and then there's like a background of, hey, here's what happened in the game. Like, I don't know. I just
yeah.
think it should always be character driven, and I'm just really interested to see how that plays out. And to Lauren's point, I think the thing that I was the most curious about is that would this be accessible to someone who knew nothing about this? So if I could go and say, hey, there's this cool documentary to someone who knows nothing about CrossFit, who's a friend of mine, I could be like, hey, you want to watch this? And if they would come away being entertained and wanting to know more, then I think mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I think yes, they could, but I also think they would learn less about the games and what actually what actually happens in the CrossFit
Okay.
games than in previous years. They would probably learn more about specific athletes and maybe be a little bit more tied to those athletes, because they definitely spent more time on some of that character development.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think it was because they were solely. I mean, I think they ignored certain athletes that the complaint was always like, why didn't they cover this person? Why didn't they cover this person? Why didn't they cover this person? And I think those complaints are just as valid in this one here because it definitely felt like, hey, we picked our horses and we're going with it.
Which is
And
fine because like when you get those complaints about why you can't cover everybody. You've got to
yeah,
pick.
Yeah.
yeah,
Just stick with them is all I want to know. I want to know, like, if you pick the person who finishes dead last, fine. Just tell me that story and follow it all the way through.
yeah, yeah, for sure. There were some pieces and cutaways and s- like uh athlete features that felt a little shoehorned in and it felt like a little forced.
All right.
Um, but I still enjoyed it. I still kind of watched it without hesitation, and I'll definitely watch it again. It I don't know, maybe it's just I'm so used to having that energy at any of that games content like that. It felt like there was missing just a little bit of zip, almost like when
Yeah. I would agree.
like when your soda gets just a little flat. You're like,
Okay.
the sweetness is there, the flavor's still there, but it just doesn't quite have that the Dr. Pepper fizz in it.
I feel like before this, anytime I'd watch a doc, there were moments where you would get goosebumps or you get amped and you're like, "Oh my god, I wanna go to the gym and PR this because I'm
Mhm.
so excited." You know what I mean? And you're right.
Mhm.
I don't think that I had a moment where I felt like that.
There were definitely
Even
some
in
emotion. Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking even like the big thing that year was Roman's injury and him doing the double unders. I had so much emotion when I was in the Coliseum watching it in real time, and I don't know, and maybe I'm just too close to the situation because we
Mm.
were there, but I didn't get the same emotional tie in the way that, like, people were freaking crying in the
Oh
Coliseum.
man,
Like, the emotion was just electric, and I don't know that it transitioned in the same real authentic way that it was.
it was definitely still emotional. I thought they did a good job with it. I think what could have taken it next level is having that little bit of zip. I thought there's like the different layers of emotion, right? I thought they did the heartfelt sad element of it really well,
Yeah.
but it missed out on like that inspirational, like, yeah, let's run through a wall type thing,
Mhm.
because they did an excellent job including the post game interview when they asked him why he went out there and they had a
Oh,
camera
that part
there
was great.
following. I'm sitting there holding my 1 month old son, and Roman's talking about how he wants to be a hero
It's
for his
differently,
kid,
doesn't it?
and then I'm like, you know,
Uh-huh.
bawling into my chest in the living room, like, oh man. So yeah, that definitely hit me a little bit more for sure.
That was, it's funny. Not the Chase and I Colin that were both, pretty emotional, but
Mm.
that's when he mentioned his kid. I'll never forget the reaction from Chase. Like there was, oh God, like, like he got,
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, and we were both that way. I hope he doesn't mind me telling that story, but it
No,
definitely,
no, for sure.
like he was holding it together. I was holding it together, but then when that came out, then it was, oh no. Um,
Game over.
yeah. Well, that's great. So I'm looking forward to watching it. I just haven't had a chance to check it out, but it was at number one. I think I checked today and it's down to number three because I think two new documentaries just came out that have gotten a little more, I think, buzz. But proved me wrong. Here I was thinking like, got to promote this, got to promote. Well, no, number one.
I mean, I'd also be curious just to see and this isn't knocking it being number one, but is iTunes as popular of a streaming platform now as it was back in the day?
I mean, I think I'll just speak for me. I go there first for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I know I'm going to
Yeah.
download and buy a movie. That's where I'm going.
To
'Cause
iTunes?
Yes.
I went
Interesting.
to
I don't
I
think
went
I've
to
ever gone to iTunes.
I went to Prime Video this time, and I
That's
normally
what
go
I
through
did.
iTunes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd be curious. I actually want to know how it did on those other platforms that you could purchase it
That's
too, because
Did
I
they
know
say what it did on Prime?
I don't think so, because
I'm
there is
curious because
competition.
that is so easy.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's also another opportunity for them to do really well too.
Yeah.
We'll see if they ever do another.